switched up here. I got this beautiful lady on the side of me here. We're getting into our next panel right now. This is called It Takes a Village, Being Successful at Home. Now, a lot of you know my story of being a home dialysis patient, and there's no way possible I would be able to do it without this next person I'm going to introduce. The woman next to me so happens to be, I'm lucky enough to call my wife, my high school sweetheart, Mimi, and we have been together for 24 years, married for 12 years, 13 years. See, I just want to see if she knew. That was a test. She's been with me through all modalities, from next stage, Tableau, in-center, transplant, losing the transplant, having the transplanted kidney taken out, having my natural born kidneys taken out, all surgeries and everything. She's been with me through it all. You talk about support system. She is my support system. She is my rock. She is everything to me. It's been a steady force in my life, as far as being my best friend, my wife, my care partner, a little bit of everything. I won't keep going because we'll be here all day, okay? This is Mimi, and I want to introduce you next to Jen Ravert. Jen Ravert joined the Medical Education Institute as program director in 2022 after spending most of her previous decade as a RN specializing in home dialysis modalities in New York. Jen started her nursing career in acute dialysis, moved into in-center, and finally to home therapies, teaching PD and HHD on as many systems as were available to her. Jen, how you doing today? You're muted.
I am awesome. How are you guys?
So good to see you. Love seeing all the plants around you as always, and how the glasses match the plants. Girl, you're doing it big today. I already know. Next we have Jennifer Moore. Jennifer Moore is a registered dietitian who has passionately served the renal population for more than 20 years. Jennifer's history includes care for pre-ESRD patients, delaying dialysis, and end-stage renal disease patients on all forms of dialysis. Jennifer, so good to have you here with us today.
So glad to be here. Thank you.
Definitely. So next we have Dr. Varshi Broman. Dr. Varshi is always stylish. I wanted to see my shirt today, but we'll get to that later. Dr. Varshi Broman is the medical director of USRC Home Dialysis West in San Antonio, Texas. He is also the president of the medical staff for Christian Santa Rosa, hope I said that right, in his region. And he serves as health system dialysis medical director for the Christian Santa Rosa Health System. He has received the Outstanding Clinical Teaching Award at the Christian Santa Rosa Family Medicine Residency Program multiple times. And Dr. Broman's clinical areas of expertise include hypertension, CKD, vascular access, ESKD, and dialysis. I could keep going on about him, but he said he wanted to shorten his bio for this one. So I said, thank you very much, Doc. Doc, so good to have you here with us, man.
Thank you, David. Thanks for having me.
It's so good to see all of you guys here today. I'm gonna jump into this one-on-one with you. I have some specific questions for each of you alone. But can you talk to us through, at what point do each of you get involved in the patient's home dialysis journey? Jen, I want to start with you. I know you're very passionate about these things. I would like to know how you get involved in the patient's home dialysis journey, and where do you stand in that?
I talk to everybody. I think that's probably the most important thing to do, is just to talk to people and be friendly and make it's kind of difficult to be able to tell people that they need to get to know the people that they interact with on a daily basis at work, but it's actually really important. When you're working in a clinic, that's kind of how you initiate any form of comfort. And once you start building comfort and rapport with a person, then you can start talking about things you might want to talk to them about. But first, you need to sort of get them used to you as a human and get used to them and say hello and feel them out a little bit. That's kind of how I start.
Which is a beautiful way. Communication is always the best key to everything. And sometimes you feel talking to a patient can open them up a lot. I would love to hear from you on this one, Jennifer.
So I think I can come at this from different angles. So I've worked, when I was working in the clinics, I had in-center and peritoneal patients. And so if I saw someone in-center that was struggling, or that was like young and vibrant and like missing, I felt like they were missing life, I would just say, like, why are you here? There are so many other options. Have you heard about them? So many times they haven't. they've not heard. Now I find myself more in the pre-ESRD space. I use plant-based nutrition to slow progression of chronic kidney disease. But sometimes I get people very late stage. They don't get referred to me in time to completely prevent progression to end stage. And so when they begin, their GFR begins to decline, that is so important at that point to talk to people about options. So many people don't even realize there's a home therapy option. And so at that point, I do talk with them and I say, listen, you know, there's many options. And I explained, you know, what each one is like, but remind them that they are the number one driver of their healthcare. They're the number one person who makes the choice about how they're treated for kidney disease. But I do push the definite benefits of, you know, when it comes to nutrition, just having a more flexible diet on home therapies. That's one plus, but even just an improved quality of life.
Very true. Very true. Doc, I'd love to hear from you on this.
So I start early. As soon as somebody has CKD stage 4, I start having the conversation about dialysis to, first of all, gauge what their interest is in dialysis, especially the elderly. Frequently, they're ambivalent. They don't know. To Jennifer's point, they don't know about home dialysis. When you tell them about peritoneal dialysis, they're like, what's that? Everybody has this concept of hemodialysis in a center, and they don't even know that you can get that at home. So I've been starting the conversation very early in clinic, and then there is obviously always people who crash into dialysis, kind of like yourself, and they've never had the conversation. I think you have to make sure you have a multidisciplinary team that approaches it. One of us will get to the patient sooner rather than later and make that assessment and talk about home dialysis with them.
All right, thank you so much for your answer. So this next question I'm going to direct to my beautiful wife here, Nini. Okay, don't start getting nervous on me. I have a question for you. So how do you help patients be successful at home? And patients, I mean me, of course. And what does your ongoing relationship look like? I hope the relationship is still good because she's still here. So sorry about that, guys. So I would like to know, how do you help a patient be successful at home?
Just be their support and be there for them. What else? Just be on top of you. He used to be a non-compliant patient, so that's where I came in place. But now he's 120% advocating for himself, and I'm proud of him. But just be their main support. You know, just be there, whatever they need. Just if he's in pain, make sure you're there for him. And if he needs something with the machine, just be on call. That's all it is. And just
yeah, the moral support is more important for me, because I kind of handle stuff when it comes to doing the treatments, but the moral support for me, it helps a lot. And whoever wants to answer that question as well, like, how do you help a patient be successful at home? Like, what are some tricks and tips that you may have for your patients that you deal with to help them to be successful at home? Doc, we can start with you. You're on mute, Doc.
Yeah, you have to ask the right questions. You have to kind of understand what the patient's home situation is and find out what kind of support they have and how functional they are, whether they can assist their loved ones in, accomplishing the task of home dialysis, and how capable they are of managing their ADLs and IADLs, and then how capable and available is their loved one for that kind of support. I've had, and you won't always know. Patients are eager, obviously, to do treatment at home many times. And once they get into the thick of it, they're like, oh, no, I can't do that. I can't put my wife through that. I can't put my husband through that. And I've seen it, which is why a TCU becomes very important in this journey. If you have a transitional care unit, you go through all of that. I've had a couple of patients at the TCU decide, well, we get it now. This is not for us. Or we'll switch modalities to PD, or we'll switch from PD to HHD, or we'll go back in center. It's very good to find that out early instead of once they get into the thick of things and so forth.
Jennifer, you want to answer?
Yeah, so I mean, I love that answer. Thank you. I agree. I mean, I think that people sometimes they're not educated enough. They don't ask enough questions, and but sometimes that they get in and they just change their mind. I listened to a patient advocate speak on one of these LinkedIn kind of a panel like this, and he said that he got lonely because he was the only dialysis patient at home, but when he was in center, he had all these other people around him that were dealing with the same things that he was dealing with. And so I think it needs to be okay. It's okay if you don't like home therapies. If you do, wonderful. It's okay if you don't like him in his center. It is your decision. Because I think, there's such an emphasis on home therapies right now that I think sometimes people feel bad if they don't want to do it, but it's okay if you don't. And then nutritionally, I would just say if you're a caregiver, be all in, support your loved one. And that may even mean sometimes eating like them, because again, they may feel alone. They feel like, why am I the only one in the family having to eat like this? However, I will say that, home therapies, the diet is so much less restrictive. And I think that we have focused historically too much on a diet because my kidneys failed, as opposed to a diet to make me a healthy or overall person. And, oh, by the way, my kidneys failed. Mm-hmm. So, just supporting them in that way is a big deal, because food's a big deal. You learn that when you're a dietitian.
Very true. Very true. Jen.
So I think the best way of getting people supported is by helping them support themselves and each other in their lives outside of the clinic too. Right. So one of the reasons I love doing calls with David and Mimi is because you guys are very obviously a close couple. And sometimes I feel a little bit like a marriage therapist, because I feel like I've had to reteach little things like appreciation skills and hugs to people as they go through this journey, as a means of sort of reconnecting them to why they got together in the first place and how they're going to go forward in a problem-solving journey. So I always try to get people, when they come in with a partner or a family member, to get into the habit of saying thank you and giving that appreciation back and forth with one another. And I think that by making their relationship with each other stronger, that ends up leading to better outcomes further down the line with literally everything.
Very true. I try to thank Mimi often, as much as I can, especially when I was going through my catheter phase earlier this year. I found myself feeling like I was day one dialysis again, being starting in 2006, and then being using my fistula for some time and getting that catheter out your chest and then having to put it back in. So later on, it was really a trying time for me, and she kind of really stepped up and helped me through that time. So thank you publicly and in front of everybody. Thank you so much for everything you do. Love you. All right, I don't start crying here. So we're gonna keep it moving. So Jennifer, you started to answer something already that's in our questions. We were talking about dietary restrictions, which is probably one of the hardest things for patients to deal with, myself included. We worried about phosphorus, worried about potassium, we worry about all these things in your diet. So are there different home dialysis versus in-center diets that are restrictions for the different modalities? And how do you advise a home patient to follow the kidney-friendly meal? You get this list of things that you cannot eat on all the time, and you ask that what they can eat, and everyone's like, oh, we can't eat nothing. So is there a difference in the two in-center and home dialysis, meals? And how is it important to advise a home patient to follow the kidney-friendly meal as well?
Okay, I think I'm going to make a lot of people really happy here. So the renal diet is outdated. That doesn't even exist anymore. So the 2020 KDOQI guidelines say that, we don't have definite restrictions that are the same across the board for every single person. You go by lab and you personalize it. So I just had a rant the other day on Instagram because I was like, people put up, oh, here's some kidney friendly snacks. And I was like, for who? You can't say something's kidney friendly. For who? Right. What do your labs look like? What type of dialysis are you on? Are you pre-end stage? Are you even on dialysis yet? Mm-hmm. So if whoever you're talking to is not giving you something individualized, find someone new to talk to. That's my first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is that there are some definite kind of blanket recommendations that I give. And I think they're, it's not as mainstream as it should be. But because I've been working in the pre-dialysis space, we talk about a lot of things like lowering inflammation levels. How do we eat a high nutrient diet? Because just because your kidneys are failing doesn't mean that you still don't have a heart, you still don't have vasculature, you still don't have a liver and a pancreas and all these other things. So how are we going to eat to help your entire body be healthy? And by the way, you have a few little tweaks we have to make for kidney disease, but everyone needs to be eating lots of whole plant foods. You need fiber. Even on dialysis, you need fiber. Especially on dialysis, you need fiber. I think the historical renal diet was fiber void, and that's a mistake. You need protein, but if you lower those inflammation levels, you don't need as much when they're driving all this meat down your throat. When you are on dialysis, if you'll eat whole foods and avoid processed foods, well, gosh, that right there just helps your phosphorus levels. And everyone else on the planet, everybody who's listening, even if your kidneys work, you should be avoiding processed foods. So there's a great way for your family to join in. Yep. They shouldn't be eating processed foods either. So what I would tell you is make sure that everything's individualized. Eat like you still have a whole body. Eat for ultimate overall health. And if your labs indicate that you need to restrict potassium, phosphorus, then do that. Everybody on the planet needs to eat a low sodium diet, so you're not alone there. I do recommend a low sodium diet, and everyone on the planet needs to be eating more fiber because I think that's the most under-recognized important nutrient. So anyway, and I do advocate for a plant-focused diet. So I'm a little bit non-traditional, but I think the guidelines are becoming non-traditional, and thankfully so.
Jennifer Moore, I might have to follow you because you're my type of guy. I won't act like I'm asleep if you walk into my center. Okay. Also, too, I haven't eaten meat in 4 years, so I think I can attest to that. I'm only on two medications. I'm on calcitriol and vitamin D, and I take a binder. That's all the medication I've been on for the last 3.5 years because of my switch in my diet. So I can attest to what you're saying right there too. So listen to her. She knows what she's talking about. I'm agreeing with you totally. So I got a couple.
I'll tell you that. Can I tell you one more thing? There's a great study by Dr. Shivam Joshi. He wrote the foreword to my second book. It's called Plant-Fed Kidneys for the Patient. Mm-hmm. And he looked at that, at a plant-based diet in peritoneal dialysis patients. And those patients had better labs. Their albumins were fine. And that's because their inflammation levels were so low. And whenever I've worked with a completely plant-based hemodialysis or peritoneal dialysis, they always have great numbers.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's so risky. No,
I'm a pescatarian, but I
very good.
Yeah. So I'm doing good though. I'm doing really well. So a question from the chat was, they would love to know how each of us identify people that you must talk to about home dialysis. Of course, everyone may not be for home dialysis, but is there people that you see that you can identify right off the bat, like this is somebody I need to talk to, or do you feel like it's everybody that you need to talk to about home dialysis? Let's start with Jen. Jen, how do you feel about that? How do you identify people that you must speak to about home treatment?
So I'm a very intuitive person. So when I notice that somebody really exceptionally does not want to be in the clinic and is not happy, I take those kinds of signs and I use that as a way of giving people a potential out of a situation they don't feel like being in. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times those are the people who are labeled as difficult. And I am known for loving the difficult people because most of the time it's a control issue. They just want to have more control over their lives. And when you have the ability to offer them an education that can give them that control back, people do really well, and usually the compliance problems go away.
Doc, what about you? What do you feel? Who are the people that you feel like you must talk to about being on home treatments?
Everyone. I'll tell you, one of my most interesting stories about a patient is when a 93-year-old patient was mad at me one day when I was rounding in dialysis. I said, "Why are you mad?" He goes, "Because you never discussed kidney transplantation with me." I said, "You're 93 years old." He goes, "I'm still a human and I'm fine." So embarrassingly, I referred him, and he just wanted to talk and understand and learn and realize why he can or cannot do something. And I think that when you don't talk to people they feel marginalized. You have to talk to the patients and make sure you're talking to the patient, not their loved one who is there with them, because they are the patient when they're capable and they don't have any mental challenges. You have to have the conversation and explain why perhaps they're not a candidate, because they're going to talk to you, they're going to talk to others, they're going to hear from others, they're going to want to know. And so the more educated they are, the better off they'll be one way or the other.
So speaking about education, Doc, just a written question right back to you. A lot of people would want to know, can home dialysis be done by themselves without the aid of a partner? So I know that's like a question. Some people might not have that, that support group and still want to do home. What are your suggestions on that?
I think you won't find that in all geographies. Self care or self dialysis isn't available everywhere. Not all programs have training around it, have policies around it. But I think as we move along in this journey and we work on increasing our home dialysis patient population, you'll see more and more of that. I'm very motivated to find the right person to pilot a program for us, but you kind of have to carefully select the patient to make sure you can succeed, and then open it up to others. But you have to make sure all your duckies are in a row, and the program has all the support needed for that kind of training, due to the obvious concerns about risk of an individual being alone when they do such therapy. I always tell people that home dialysis, in my opinion, is safer than in-center. I've never seen a patient come back and saying, hey, the needle flew off, but you see it when you're in the hospital or in-center. You see stuff like that.
Very true.
Rare, but you see it.
Very true. So, Hun, I want to ask you a question. So dialysis can be emotionally taxing on loved ones, care partners, kids, family. Do you have any advice on how to maintain a positive outlook? I know, we've been in this for a long time together. You've seen everything, like we talk about. Like, what advice would you give people out there who may be a care partner or a patient on to maintain a positive outlook on being a care partner, the effects of it on the family, the effects of it on you? Just can you give your insight on that? Please.
Mine is just a lot of prayer, a lot of prayer, and just be there for them, and just think about it. What better way for them to be here, but for you to also be part of their care partner team, from the doctors, dietitian, nurse. If you're not part of it, who are they going to go to? And sometimes, the doctor, the nurse is not available. They're not working after 5 p.m. If you make yourself available to them, you're there 24/7. You see everything, ins and outs, whatever the doctor, the nurse doesn't see it. Just be their total support. Just, I don't know, if he wants to go for a walk, I'll go for a walk with him. Now he's walking, now he's working out, now he has me with him walking and working out. Whatever helps him to keep going with treatment, dialysis, his health, just always be part of it. Even if you don't want to do it, you better get up and do it with him, because that's me now. I get up, I roll out of bed, and okay, let's go for a walk. Just be 120% with your partner, and just think about it like this. If I don't do it with him, somebody else is going to do it with him, or, he's going to go and not do it because you don't want to do it. It's you just always be with that partner, and always do what makes them happy. Certain things, not everything.
Not everything. But yeah, it's true. Just getting in and my kidney evaluation is coming up on October 11th to see if I'm eligible for transplant. So I know I had a little weight on me, so I'm like, babe, we got 90 days to get this off. And so, we've been working out for the past 61 days straight. And every day, almost every day, she gets up and comes with me, whether I pull her out of bed or she's up before me, telling me, come on, let's go. We got things to do today. So it definitely is about just having that support, having people in your corner. And it could be stressful on the partners too. As much as it's stressful on the patient, it's stressful on the partner. I always say I'm not the only one that do dialysis in the house. I'm just the only one that put the needles in. So, that's how I look at it. The whole family does dialysis, from the kids to my wife to the dogs. Everybody suffers from it. So it's something that, you want to have that for. So I want to get into this next question here. How would you describe, we have like 5 minutes left, so I want to get all your answers though. How do you describe the differences between your typical relationship with the in-center patient compared to your relationship with a home patient. Let's start with Doctor here. Doc, do you see a difference at all in your home patients compared to your in-center patients as far as your relationship with them?
It depends how the patient was initiated. If they start dialysis in the hospital, there's a period of time that it takes a longer period of time to get to know the patient and get close to them a lot of times, and you don't capture the essence of their journey. But when it's been a clinic patient that I've been following for a long time, the relationship isn't very different, at least in my case. But your home patients are going to generally be more focused. They're going to be more engaged a lot of times, and they drive the conversation versus a family member who's not present when they're getting their treatment. They usually come with their loved one, their care partner, and so I think the relationship there is more focused and closer in many instances.
Thank you, Doc. Jennifer, I'd love to hear from you on this.
So I'm a little, Jennifer.
Oh, Jennifer Moore, please, let me hear you.
I would say I would answer that very similarly. I mean, because when you're in center, you know, they're there more often, but they may not be as engaged, whereas a home therapies patient usually is very engaged. But either way, you know, both, you know, I get to know both very well, and you know, and I think a lot of it depends on the personality of who you're talking to and how close they want to be. But again, letting them drive that relationship and everything. But definitely, you know, more touch points within center, but no less close, because like, you know, like you said, that the home therapies patients are very engaged. So.
Thank you so much, Jen.
If I may, David.
Yes, sir.
One other caveat is, when I'm in center, I have 20 more patients to see, and I'm on a time crunch. So
yep.
I don't do them justice usually. You know, if you really want to spend the time that you should, you'd be in that. You'd be there for the whole shift.
All day. I appreciate you saying that, and you know, because I've seen that, and I call it the lap. And I know they have to go, and so you know, you have some that can kick it for a little bit, some that just are in and out. But I appreciate you.
It's not enjoyable one bit. Yeah,
I appreciate you saying that, Doc. Thank you so much, Jen.
Like, I've been locked in rooms with people 4 or 5 days a week for the entire length of a treatment for months. So it's really hard not to get a little bit closer to those people that you've spent that time with, because you've also had to build quite a bit of comfort, because when I've taught, I've had to teach all of these clinical assessment skills and the safety skills and these functional skills. People have to be very comfortable with being honest with me when they make a mistake, when they have a problem. And so the only way that I can do that is sort of by getting close with people, so that hopefully they feel comfortable coming to me with questions and problems. And I also usually, as when I was working clinically as the nurse, I would spend the most amount of time with the patient actually doing the training. So it's unavoidable. I know all their dogs, their cats, like their kids, their grandkids, their family.
Very true. Very true. So we have about a minute left. I would love to hear one piece of advice, if you can keep this as brief as possible, because I want to get everybody to answer this. We're going to start clockwise. For me, is Jen first, Jennifer, and then Doc. What's one piece of advice you would give the others in the role who want to help their patients be successful at home? Jen, I'm start with you. You need me to ask it again, or you got it?
Believe them. If that's what they say they want to do, that's what they want to do. Believe them.
Right. Great answer. Jennifer.
Be a whole person, eat like a whole person, exercise like a whole person, sleep like a whole person, and don't give up on life just because you happen to have one organ system that failed. You know, keep being as healthy as you can possibly be where you find yourself.
Okay. Me, I'm going to go to you next. What's the advice you can give others in the role who want to help their patients be successful at home?
Just be their care partner. Don't be scared. You're going to be scared, but just don't show them that you're scared. Just be there and do it, and go cry and pray somewhere else.
I've caught her sometimes. Doc.
Well, I will say communication is important. They have to communicate, and there's nothing they shouldn't talk about, be afraid to talk about. They need to bring all issues to the forefront of the conversation, number one. Number two, going back to you being a pescatarian, Mimi's probably a pescatarian now. I let them know that the more they mirror each other in terms of pursuing better health, the more successful each individual will be. Frequently, the aging population, couples both have problems. Yes, the husband or wife may not be on dialysis or progressing in that direction, but them knowing that if they do some of the same things their loved one is doing will help them succeed, it is huge. Because if you don't have support, you will fail in center, you will fail at home, you'll fail everywhere.
Very true. Hey guys, I want to thank you so much, Jen, Jennifer, Doctor. Thank you guys so much for your participation. Thank you, my beautiful wife, Mimi. Thanks for being here. Love you. We're gonna get moving on, guys.